Hello everyone and welcome to the challenge activity for Unit 6. This challenge activity is actually deeply connected to some research that I do, and I'll tell you a little bit about that research before I tell you what the activity is. Lately I've been really interested in a couple of things. I've been interested in how do we build supportive relationships at work. When we are living in a organizational model where managers come to the organization with a range of skills, right? Managers come up usually through a functional arm. So a manager's been an engineer for part of their career, and now they're being promoted into management. A manager's been in sales for most of their career, and now they're being promoted into a career in sales management. They don't necessarily have the skills to have the types of conversations that can lead to supportive communication, feelings of trust that can ultimately allow you to be the type of manager that can get things done. So, are there tools and techniques, simple things that we can teach managers to do periodically that help to support them in creating these types of relationships with their employees and help them to provide help them to have conversations that guide employees in ways that are developmental, that are coaching oriented, and that ultimately improve or guide performance. So the Feed Forward interview is an interview that was developed by a gentleman named Avi Kluger. And Avi came up with the idea that a series of questions, a series of structured questions, conversations, can help to really reveal a lot on the part of the other individual. It can help to build trust between two people, because I, as the manager, am asking a series of questions, and my role really is to listen to the other person, and listening to the other person is a powerful way to build relationship and to create trust. It also helps me as the manager to learn a whole lot about the other person and about the type of work that they do and how to support them. And you'll see why in just a moment. I have studied this technique with individuals within a large professional I'll call it a professional services firm. I've also studied this technique with partners and principals and others within an architecture firm, so architects. And I've also studied this with paramedics within a call center, a 911 call center. And in each case, there was a great deal of both performance and other benefit for this technique. So my challenge to you is to take this technique and to try it out on somebody. Now, you may not be working, and nor maybe you don't want to do this with people that you're working with, and that is absolutely fine. You could find a friend, a sibling, or somebody else on whom you would do this interview. And in those contexts, you would just ask them to talk about either their school or their work or something that they're trying to accomplish at the moment. So here are the steps. The steps are, first there's an introduction where you introduce the technique. Then you ask them to tell a story, and this is the important part. You ask them to tell a story and tell it in great detail, and your job is to listen. Then you're going to have them identify the peak of the story. And the story really is supposed to be about a time when they were performing at something really well and really feeling good about what they were doing. And at the peak of that story, you ask them to talk about all the things that were happening at that moment as a way of first learning a lot more about them, but also to help them recall the things that support positive and high level performance on their part. And that's where you talk about the conditions and all the things that were in the environment. And finally, you'll ask what I call the feed forward question, which is to take everything that they've just talked about and then to talk about what's coming up in the future and ask, are they doing things that will get them closer to or further away from what they just talked about? So let's talk through it. Here's the introduction. Here's some language you might use. You'll see a cheat sheet also available on the course website. I encourage you to print that off, and you can have it with you when you start to have these conversations with people. But here's the first step. I'm sure that during your work here, or during your time here, or during the last year at school, depending on the context that you're trying to explore with the other individual, I'm sure that during the last year or your time here, you've had both negative experiences and positive experiences. Today, I would like you to focus on your positive experiences. Listen to them outline a few stories and help your employee to identify experiences that are aligned. So this would be if they are working, you would ask them to identify experiences that are aligned with the strategy of the organization. That's not important if you're talking to a friend about their school performance or anything else. You'll just want to make sure you listen to a few stories, a few examples, and then you'll pick one story to focus on. And on that story, here's the question you ask. Could you please tell me the story as it happened during where you felt energized, where you felt full of life, even before the results of your actions became known? So, a project that you worked on, or something that you were doing for school, for work, for life, even before you knew you got an A, or you got a promotion, or you got a raise, or your boss said, "Good job." Okay, so something that you felt really good about. The idea here is we want to help people identify their strengths. We want to help them identify the places in which they have the capacity for high performance. What was the high point of the story? What did you think at this moment? What were you feeling and thinking? Again, we're helping them to recreate the moment in their head, hoping that will help them to remember all of the things that support high-level performance for them. What were the conditions in yourself, others, the organization, the environment, school, your teacher that allowed this to happen? Reflect the conditions, and so you'll reflect, so I hear this, so I understand this, so use your active listening skills and ask, what else? What else? So really you're probing, you're trying to get as much out of the interviewee as possible. It's not about you, it's about them. So you're not injecting your own experience, you're really just listening to their experience and helping to get as much out of them as possible. And then here's the feed forward question. Recall the conditions that allowed you to feel so good about the work you were doing. Consider these conditions as road signs that show you the way to your full potential. To what degree do your plans for the immediate future take you closer to or further away from the conditions that allowed you to feel the way you described? Okay, so that is the technique. That's what I want you to practice using the cheat sheet that we have. And here's why. Because we know that focusing on the positive evokes positive emotion, so it helps the person to feel good about their experience. It also facilitates empowerment and engagement. So it helps to, as a manager, it helps you to make other people feel confident about their ability to do things and help people feel committed to the work that they're doing. It leads to the discovery of critical data. So it brings to the foreground something you may have forgotten, something that's important to you or that was really helpful to you that you may have just left your memory. And it identifies keys for optimal functioning. So what are the things that I need to do in order to be at my best? It considers the individual's perspectives, fosters communication and interpersonal contact between you and the individual, and creates opportunities to recognize abilities and talents of others. So when you've done this activity with the other individual, I ask you to check in on some of these things with them afterwards. Ask, what was that like for you? Did you find that helpful? Did you find that a waste of time? How do you feel about me? Like, what do you think? Does that make you feel good about talking to me? What does it make you feel about talking to me? Does it make you feel it's a useful activity? And what does it make you feel about the thing that you've planned for yourself? Does the activities that you have coming up? How does it make you feel towards the type of work you have coming up? All of this are the types of things I hope you will explore with this challenge. And then once you've done it, please come back and share your ideas and your thoughts on the discussion board that I provided below the challenge activity. Good luck! I look forward to hearing about your experiences as you try it out.